Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. Quite a few people have asked about getting a plant ready for a show. So I'm going to talk about getting this one ready and then put it straight back in the grow room because I've changed my mind. It's not going to go. Right, first of all you have to decide what is the front of the plant, because that's what we'll need to face the edge of the table, the view that the judges would get. Okay, therein lies my first problem, because really that is the front of the plant and the blooms are not facing the front of the plant, so that would be a no-no. Just move the camera a bit. Yeah. Now, alternatives: a secondary view of the plant. Okay, well what we could do is turn it round, so I'm trying to get this to use the camera as the judge, so that most of the blooms are now facing the front, but the plant looks wrong. The plant just looks wrong at that angle. So what can we do? Move the blooms. There's a possibility. Now at the moment, let me just get my scissors. I don't mind undoing this to go over this. I'm not going to spend ages on it because, as I said, the plant's not actually going to go. I actually strapped two bulbs together at one point to try and get the blooms to open nicely together, which they did do from my point of view. Okay, so we now have, well, that bulb's still tied on. Let's get it off. That's it. That's separated the two bulbs now. Yeah, it's also allowed the plant to spread out. Now that gives me another option for how to view the plant, but we've still got to have the blooms facing the front. Yeah, so what we could do is move that bulb back a bit. Hang on, I'm supposed to be facing the camera, aren't I? There we go. So we could move that bulb back a bit, yeah, and move this bulb there. That would be a better view, but it's still not right. The base of the plant still looks wrong because it's deep, when in actual fact the two leads are either side. So the view of the plant that would be acceptable is either that, with the leads either side, which is now looking at the back of the plant with the oldest bulbs. That's not going to work. Or we go back to where we were before and face what is the front of the plant. And now we've got this spike facing away from the judging angle. And it's not going to move. There's no way that will twist to where I want it, which is there, without breaking. So it's facing the wrong way. Okay, but then, okay, so this one's not going to go for that reason. I can't position it correctly. Simple as that. But what the judges would be looking for is a well-grown plant for the type. Yeah? And when you're looking at a hybrid, which this is, they may not have a clear picture of what that's supposed to look like. But nonetheless, there are many Cattleya hybrids that would come into this category that they'd expect a certain growth pattern. Now this has grown in two directions, and those directions have split, so its progress is quite good. Yeah? Now, most judges don't get to see a root system because you're supposed to dress your plant, so this pot would have to go inside a black pot and then be top dressed. Well, that removes their view of what's going on in the pot. Yeah, they don't mind. That normally is not a big deal. So they'd look at the plant, then they'd look at the quality of the leaves. Are they all reasonable sized? Are the latest growths smaller than previous growths, in which case the plant's not growing as well as it should be? So the habit of the plant, how it grows, the directions it's growing in, should it be a branching lead, and if it is, has it done that? I mean, I've seen a Cattleya with 7 pseudobulbs all in a row, and it's the type of plant that should have split several years ago, so it would be marked down for that. But that's not the biggest number of points, don't forget. I've also got one yellow leaf in here, so the look of the plant is distracted by this old leaf in there. But apart from that, the latest two growths are the biggest and strongest. The leaves are all quite good on this plant. They would need a clean. Don't ever put a plant into a show with dirty leaves. First of all, you'll lose some points for not having clean leaves, But what it does do is it's off the judges, because they just think it's total laziness, so they get annoyed. And if they get annoyed when they first look at a plant, it's often difficult to get them back again. It's often difficult to get the love, because they've just got annoyed that you were lazy and didn't clean your leaves off. And dead looking sheaths, these would be better off, so that the nice shiny pseudobulb showed. So it can take a while to prepare a plant, you know, but the most important thing is the aspect of the blooming and the quality of the blooming. Yeah? Are the blooms on this plant the right colour, the right size, and everything that they should be for this plant? And then there's the number of them. Do clusters of blooms on this type of Cattleya normally have that number of blooms, or are these spikes short of a few? Or have they got more than normal? Bonus points, yeah? So it's all geared up to what the plant really should look like. And a lot of the judges have got a picture in their mind that they draw on of the best one they've ever seen, and that's what you're getting compared with. And some judges may never have seen your plant before, so they have to look on the type of plant, you know, what the plants normally look like for that genera, depth of colour with the blooms, also the positioning. You address the judges with your plant, yeah? So the blooms should all be facing the judge, not facing the back of the room, like that, yeah? And it would be nice if all of the blooms are the right way up at that point. Now at that point, that is smashing. But that's not, and there's nothing I can do about it. If I pull that over, the blooms are upside down. So it's not going to work. So that plant can't go. Not to this one, because I know some of the judges, and one in particular, and if things aren't right, they're wrong. It's like almost black and white, especially if something could have been done about it. Now if I'd got at this particular spike earlier in its progression, I could have trained it in the same direction as that spike, so that all the blooms faced the front, yeah, and the plant was at its nicest view, and then it would have been quite good. But as it is, it's not, so it's not going to go. I'm just going to have a quick break, because this has got happy sap all over it, and now I have, so I need to go and wash my hands, and then we'll get on with the next one quickly. Okay, the one I am going to take is the little Aerangis fastuosa. Now if this could go on a plant stand and hang from it, it would be quite good. But the angle I want this at is, again, presenting the blooms, and it would take a lot of faffing around to get the mount to hang at that point. So I'm actually going to put it in a pot. Well, the other thing I meant to say, certainly in the two societies I belong to, black pots. No alternatives, no clear pots, no, even if you've got a clay pot, it needs to go inside a black pot. All plants are supposed to be presented either on a plant stand, hanging, or in a black pot. The idea is to get a level playing field, so that the pot doesn't distract, because they're all just black pots. That's the idea. Right, I've got some gravel in there. That's to hold the pot still, make sure it doesn't tip over. And then the idea now, I've just got some large bark here. I just need to get the level in the pot high enough that the plant will sit on it at the right height. That's the first job, is to get the plant at the right height in the pot. And it's going to have to be quite near the top, but not too near the top, because there's something else that's got to happen. Now, to position that, it needs to be quite close to the front of the pot and at that sort of angle. And it needs to go a little higher than that as well, otherwise the blooms are going to be low down. This is not going to be easy to get this in the right position, and getting it to stay in the right position is going to be even harder. I think that's about right. Now, leaves, dirty leaves, no. These leaves are like the Brassivola glauca. They have a natural white, not substance, but appearance to them. It almost looks like they're covered in white powder. That's how they're supposed to be. So we don't try and clean that off. We leave it as it is, because that's natural. So we don't play with the leaves on this one. Am I lazy or what? No, I didn't choose it because of that. Now I have a trick which I've used before when putting a mount in a pot to get it to stay where I want it. It's called a rock. And that goes in behind the mount, but where it is I will have to take some bark out to get it lower down, or it's going to show above the mount, and that's a definite no-no. It doesn't need to stick up above the mount, but it does need to sit behind it in such a way that the mount leans nicely against it. Something like that. So it needs to go a bit farther back really. So turn the rock on its edge, get the narrower bit. Yep, I'm happy with that. And then the hook that's on it, I'll just bend over the top of the rock and around the pot to give it a bit of extra stability. That's still not quite where I want it, but it will be in a minute, because now we have the moss. Now I've just been out in the garden and the birds have been at my tray of moss and emptied it all out, all over the place. So I've got to now sort out leaves, bits of dirt, weeds and all sorts, because they've effectively disgorged my moss all over the place. Half of it was upside down. But then it's my fault for not putting some sort of cover over the moss. You know, it just needs a little bit of mesh or something so they can't get at it. So it's my own fault. But what I mustn't get is any creepy crawlies showing. If you've got any bugs on your plant, they'll be straight out. So the idea now is to gently lift that plant up and sit it on the moss. Two reasons. I need it a little higher in the pot. That's why I've got it near enough but not up there. And this is going to keep my plant nice and moist, because it will give off humidity throughout the day in a dry hall. Yeah. So about like that. I wish I could get that piece of wire to do a better job and keep that plant still. Something like that. Yep. And obviously I only want I don't want the browny bits of the moss showing. I only want the nice green bits, and it'll set the plant off nicely. And then we can tuck some of this round the back of the mount, and it'll help hold it in place. Oh, there's a lovely bit of moss there. That's a different type of moss there, really fine moss. Now because that's a special bit, that can go at the front. Every little helps. I don't want to get the spurs of the blooms trapped in the moss. That's not how they would grow. Well, I suppose they might do. Although that sounds like Fluffy Cat coming in. They will now be fussing and bother all around the place. Meow. You've got biscuits, you've got a drink, you don't need me. You only need me to fill your flipping dishes up anyway, so, and they're full. All you've got to do is go and look, you know, actually do something. Right, and then some more of this moss can go round the back and hide the rock. Just about. Just to make it look like the mount is actually sitting on a nice pad of moss. The rock doesn't look very elegant, but it is round the back. That's not the view that people will be taking. That's the view that people will be taking at the front. So am I happy with that? Nope, slightly lopsided, like that. Little bit more of something under that corner. I know it's only moss, but it's enough to hold a lightweight mount like that in place. Dead bit of moss, that can come off. Yeah. So about like that. So that would be the view that the judges would see as they approach. Yeah, they would see the nice splash of white, the leaves tucked away behind the blooms, and the green setting the plant off. It's not cheating. It's quite acceptable to top dress your plant with moss. It's up to you. if a judge doesn't like that and thinks you ought to have used bark, it's only a couple of points, but you know, it could be the difference between a first and a second, or a second and a third, or not getting an award at all. But I'm not really putting this in to get an award. It's not going to be the best plant there by any means, but you know, it's in bloom, so let's get it there. I'm just seeing if I can get these two blooms that side of that leaf, because they might be open by tomorrow morning. But I was told by some judges they actually like a couple of buds to come. If every single bloom's open, it's okay, but if there's still a couple of buds to come, they quite like that, because they can, it's classed as a sort of progression. So that's it, and we'll see what that one will do. I will have to put a label in that, because the label's on the back of the mount and it's faded so you can't read it. Anyway, that's a bit of prep, and I'm doing this, what is today, Friday. This is Friday evening. I'll get the video ready and post it tomorrow morning, because I doubt if there'll be any other videos tomorrow. I've got another silly one to post that's ready to go, and hopefully I can get both of those loaded before I go to the show. I'll be up early, all I've got to do is load them. They'll be, you know, done. They've just got to be loaded. So that's two types of prep. Looking at a pot with a typical Cattleya, well, not necessarily a typical one, if that only had one flower spike on it, and it was the one where all the blooms were facing the right way, it would have been better to take to the show than having two with one spike that's wrong. Yeah? Anyway, I decided not to take it in the end, because I can't get it to look right, and if it isn't looking right, what's the point in taking it, quite honestly. It's only an orange Cattleya, it's not like it's rare or anything odd. Anyway, that's a little bit of chat about taking some plants to a show, and I'll see you next time.